This video is aimed at smart individuals who value education over entertainment. If you are not part of that group, I suggest you click off now. For the other ones, today we are going to answer the question, how do cryptocurrencies gain value? To answer this question, we'll dive into tokenomics, what is it, how it works, and how you can take advantage of it to maximize your investment return. My videos aren't meant to be fun or entertaining, but to actually teach you something worth investing your time in. So if you're ready, let's start. Understanding tokenomics is not optional if you want to survive in crypto. In 2022, a project called Terra went from a valuation of 40 billion to nothing in a few short days because the tokenomics of the project was fundamentally broken. People lost millions because of this cryptocurrency. In 2023, a project called SafeMoon promised a simple go to guaranteed returns, but its tokenomics made it mathematically impossible to sustain. The project went from a valuation of 17 billion to nothing in a few months. Here again, people lost millions because of bad tokenomics. If you don't know how to read a project's tokenomics, you are doomed to fall in some traps. This is actually one of the key differences between someone who gambles his money and someone who invests his money with an intelligent plan and good research to back his plan. Today, I will teach you exactly how to read a crypto project's economic design. We'll walk through how supply is managed, how ownership is distributed, how insider lockups protect and destroy trust, how incentives are structured, how value is actually captured, and finally, how the ecosystem's health can be measured by its TVL. This video is segmented into chapters, and in chapter 17 of this video, I will give you an actionable checklist you can use to judge if the cryptocurrencies you personally want to invest in are good opportunities or obvious death traps. Now that we passed the intro, I can say with confidence that you're smarter than 70% of people who click off the video the second they realize it takes effort to learn. Congratulations, but the job is not done yet. Let's learn together. Every investor is looking to make a return on investment. For that, they choose investment vehicles that follow a set of criterion, and one of the most dominant one is scarcity. Is what you bought rare enough for people to value it more than the price you bought it for? It sounds quite obvious, but no one wants to invest in something anyone can easily access because the desire factor fades away. This is why we enter the first point. Supply mechanics. When looking at the supply mechanics, we evaluate how rare a cryptocurrency is. The total supply is the total number of coins or tokens that the currency has. Note that we use the word coin when we talk about a layer 1's currency, and the word token for currencies built on layer 2. But for the sake of this video, I'm just going to use them interchangeably. Because cryptocurrencies are highly divisible, having a supply with a low number of tokens isn't scarcer than a supply with a high number of tokens. For example, let's take two supplies valued at $1 million. We take two different supplies to compare high and low number supply. The first supply has 100,000 coins and the second only has 1,000 coins. If someone wants to buy 20% of the whole supply, he will have to buy 20,000 coins on the first supply and only 2,000 on the second supply. But since both supplies are valued at $1 million, you're effectively buying 20% of the same valuation, meaning the number of coins bought is different, but the amount of money spent is the same for both supplies. The only impact the number of coins has is on people's perceived value. This is a trap advanced investors do not fall for, but beginners attach a higher price to something more valuable. This is a beginner's trap because it is not true at all. If a project is valued at $10,000 and there is only 10 coins in the supply, each token will be valued at $1,000. On the other hand, if a project is valued at $100,000, so 10 times more than the first project, but has a coin supply of 100,000, each token will be valued at $1. Yet it will be more expensive to buy 20% of the whole supply at $1 a coin than a $1,000 a coin. Quick note. To be more accurate, I will use the word market cap to describe the valuation of the whole supply as of now. The thing that makes the scarcity of a cryptocurrency is the supply mechanism. There are two categories, fixed supplies and flexible supplies. Bitcoin is an example of a fixed supply. The maximum number is set at 21 million and there can't be more than the maximum limit. When we look at it from a supply and demand perspective, the supply is fixed, meaning if demand grows, there will be less and less Bitcoin for each person. This demand pressure makes the price of Bitcoin rise. It is the exact opposite with flexible supply. Solana is an example of this mechanism. New coins are created every year, increasing the total supply. This has a significant impact because from a supply and demand perspective, if you want the price of the coin to rise, demand has to first catch up with the inflation rate of the supply before it starts making the price rise. Imagine this scenario. Solana has a supply increase of 8% per year. If demand stays steady, then the coin's value drops 8% per year. If the supply increases 8% per year and demand also grows 8% per year, the price stays the same. With this inflation rate, demand would have to exceed 8%. The inflation rate is a crucial element to look at before considering buying cryptocurrency. If you invest for the long term, you might bleed out all your invested money because of the inflation rate. This was the basics. If you're still with me, you're about to build on top of what you just learned. Your time will get even more valuable now. Let's dive into initial token distribution. The majority of the times, tokens and coins are launched by companies. Oftentimes, companies raise capital to be able to work on their project, and as a counterpart, investors get a portion of the token supply. Based on the amount raised in the agreement, this portion can be small or large. The company who develops the token can also pay itself with the token it is creating by holding a portion of the supply. All kinds of entities can hold a portion of the supply before the token is even launched. What you should look for is some out of proportion supply shares. Let me explain why investing in a token that has one single large holder can be dangerous. If one person holds 50% of the supply, when this person decides to sell his tokens, the price is going to melt like snow under the sun. And that is because large holders have a lot of power over the token's price. Note that if a large holder wants to sell 50% of the supply instantly, the price will drop by way more than 50% due to accessible liquidity. Now it is quite rare to see developers dump all their token at once because by doing so they will dilute the value of the token they are trying to sell, but they can very well spread this operation over longer periods of time. The result will be a never-ending sell pressure creating inflation on the token that buyers have to absorb. As a rule of thumb, you want to avoid every project that have an unfair token distribution. A healthy project is as decentralized as possible. Cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin are highly decentralized when it comes to coin distribution. No one can make the price of Bitcoin crash irreversibly. Remember, for every seller, there has to be a buyer. So if you happen to buy while a large holder is selling, you are getting used by the large holder to exit his position and by the same occasion, make the price of the token depreciate. Alright, we already saw supply mechanics and token distribution. Now we are going to see a mechanism that joins both of those points. Vesting schedule. If you made it this far, I'm highly confident this video is made for you. So let's stay focused and go on the next point. We already saw fixed and flexible supplies, but I did not tell you that even a fixed supply can suffer inflation. The vesting schedule is the timeline that controls when insiders are allowed to sell their tokens. So even if the maximum supply is capped, a token can suffer inflation in the short to medium term because the entire supply isn't released at the token's launch. You have to be careful with the vesting schedule because an aggressive vesting schedule can translate into a heavy sell pressure on your investment. If you entered a position too early, you might suffer all the token inflation before the supply is totally released. You want to enter a project after the vesting schedule is completed and insiders have done their position, or enter projects with a long and slow vesting schedule to prevent big position dumps. A long vesting schedule also keeps the interest of insiders and the public aligned. Investing in a project without knowing its vesting schedule is basically gambling, as you are unaware of something that directly impacts your investment and you could be aware of. Let's move to another fundamental layer, the monetary policy and the incentives. Monetary policy refer to how new tokens are introduced into the supply over time. Incentives refer to the mechanism used to reward participants who support the network, like staking rewards for example. You have to understand that even if a token starts with a reasonable supply, poor monetary policy can ruin it over time. A project that issues too many new tokens to incentivize adoption might seem attractive at first, but in reality, it's just building hidden inflation that slowly bleeds the market. In a similar way to flexible supply that I explained earlier, bad incentives create an inflation rate you have to fight against as an investor. For example, if a project offers staking rewards of 50% a year but has no real growth in user or revenue, it's just diluting your investment by 50% annually. It's a hidden tax on the people who stay. You want to look for projects with sustainable incentives. If staking rewards exist, they should either come from real platform revenue or be low enough not to cause massive inflation. Understanding the monetary policy also means knowing if there is a maximum supply in place, if inflation is permanent, or if it is programmed to decrease over time. Projects like Bitcoin have a decreasing emission schedule, while others like Cosmos have a dynamic inflation based on staking participation. As a rule, the more a project depends on printing new tokens to survive, the higher the risk you are absorbing unknowingly. Now that you understand how tokens are created and distributed, the next logical step is to ask yourself, does this token actually capture value from the project's success? This is what we call value accrual mechanism. A token that does not capture value is a dead investment. Even if the project grows, if the token isn't structured to benefit from its growth, the token's price will eventually collapse under its own weight. There are multiple ways a token can accrue value. The most common ones are transaction fees sharing, buybacks and burns, or requiring the token to access key functionalities of the platform. If a token is used only as a marketing tool and not integrated deeply into the economic engine of the project, it's almost guaranteed to lose value over time. You want to look for projects where token demand naturally increases as the project becomes more successful. If more users lead to more token burns, or if usage generates real fees that are redistributed to holders or stakers, then the token is structurally aligned with the platform's growth. And that is exactly what you want. On the other hand, if the project grows but the users don't need a token to interact with it, you're not investing in the project's success. You're just holding a speculative asset that could easily be left behind. As a rule, if a project can succeed without the token, then the token will fail even if the project thrives. Your job as an intelligent investor is to understand whether the token is essential to the system or just a shiny accessory to attract attention. Good! You're almost done. In a few minutes, you will get the step-by-step checklist you will be able to use to identify good opportunities and avoid death traps. But now, the last major pillar you need to master is understanding total value locked, or TVL, and ecosystem growth. TVL measures how much money is currently locked inside a blockchain's applications, whether that's lending, staking, or other decentralized services. It is one of the most objective ways to judge if a network is actually being used, not just talked about. A growing TVL means the users are trusting the network with their capital. It shows real adoption, real engagement, and most importantly, real financial commitment. On the other hand, a shrinking TVL is a clear red flag that money is leaving the ecosystem, often well before the price chart shows anything. But TVL by itself isn't enough. You also want to look at ecosystem growth. Are more applications being built on the network? Are new developers joining? Are partnerships forming? An ecosystem that grows in depth creates a network effect, making it harder for users and developers to leave. As an intelligent investor, your job is to monitor not just the price of the token, but the health of the ecosystem behind it. If you see TVL growing steadily, new applications launching, and partnerships forming, it is a good sign that the network is alive and building momentum. If you see TVL dropping, user activity stagnating, and developers leaving, it is usually a matter of time before the token follows the same downward path. If you stayed with me, congratulations, you're a smart person. Like I promised, here's a checklist you can use to ensure you don't get trapped in a bad project. Follow it step by step while evaluating investment opportunities. Supply mechanics. Is the total supply fixed or flexible? If flexible, what is the annual inflation rate? Does the supply mechanism favor scarcity over time or not? Initial token distribution. Is the token distribution fair and decentralized? Are there a large holder who could crash the price? How transparent is the initial distribution? Vesting schedule. Is there a clear vesting schedule in place for insiders? Are there strong lockups preventing early dumping? Is the vesting slow and gradual to protect public investors? Monetary policy and incentives. Are staking rewards and liquidity incentives sustainable? Is inflation controlled, or are new tokens printed excessively? Does the project rely too heavily on issuing new tokens to survive? Value accrual mechanism. Does the token capture real value from network activity? Is the token essential to use the platform or just optional? Will token demand grow naturally as the ecosystem grows? TVL and ecosystem growth. Is the total value lock growing steadily? Are new applications, users, and partnerships joining the ecosystem? Is developer activity increasing or stagnating? And there you go. You have all the cards in your hand to start analyzing crypto projects and find the next big thing. If you stayed until the end, I am highly confident about the fact that you have a higher intellect than most people, and it is for you that I make those videos. If you want more educational content like this, subscribe to the channel and drop a like on the video. And if you want to continue learning, I'd recommend you watch my previous video about every financial product related to the company MicroStrategy. I'll see you there.